Caroline, what do you make of this?
Yes, thank you very much for having me. I think what we're seeing with Terra is probably a case of terrible timing more widely for the crypto market, given what we're seeing with macro trends. The issue with Terra actually was flagged by, I suppose, the canaries in the coal mine within the crypto community. I know at least up to 6 months ago, there were people who were calling out saying that there was issues with this project and trying to alert holders of the project as to what could potentially happen. It seems as though this is, again, a question of some timing. There is being viewed as an outside attack on the stablecoin that managed to do price manipulation through shorting. And they've been comparing it to the George Soros attack on the Bank of England, creating Black Wednesday, as we know, back in 1992. And certainly when you look at some of the tactics that were deployed to bring down the project, there are definite overlaps. However, I think that to compare in terms of significance with what happened with Black Wednesday and the price of sterling versus what we've seen with cryptocurrency is probably taking it a stretch too far. I mean, obviously there are connections. The Terra project is connected across particularly the DeFi universe within cryptocurrency, but it's not the only player in that space. And I think what we can take from this is that there's going to be a significant number of lessons learned. And unfortunately, really at this point, many investors have been left holding the bag, as they say, left with depleted earnings and potentially wiped out entirely.
Caroline, is this perhaps, given the brittleness, it's the sell everything route that we've been seeing of late, is this also perhaps down to there being perhaps too many digital tokens and cryptocurrencies there that we need a shakeout ultimately?
Well, I don't know if that's too far off the mark, to be honest. I mean, at one stage, we're looking at 18,000, something like 20,000 cryptocurrency tokens, which is a rather bloated number given the relative immaturity of cryptocurrency itself. It's only been around for, a little more than a decade. So there is perhaps a point to be made there. However, you wouldn't want that to crimp the innovation and crimp some of the pace of change that's coming through with these projects. However, there perhaps should be some additional education and caveats for investors who are coming into these projects, particularly those that don't yet have a longevity or a track record behind it. Certainly for us, I mean, our view is listing on the long caps. We are, predominantly trade in Bitcoin and Ethereum, the two biggest large caps in the crypto market. And certainly what we've seen with that trading has been very robust over the last 24 hours or so.
Caroline, when stablecoins like Terra get dumped for cash, it is time to get worried, no? I mean, we heard that warning from Janet Yellen saying that it shows the dangers of cryptocurrencies, and she's calling for regulation.
I think that danger is probably a very loaded term, and I certainly would push back on that. I mean, if I can cite, what happened with George Soros and sterling, no one's suggesting that GBP or in fact the Eurozone is dangerous. So I think that kind of rhetoric isn't very helpful. However, here in Australia, the industry itself has been actively pushing, actively lobbying for regulation around our sector. We ourselves, are very keenly aware of some of the risks that are around this sector due to the lack of any real oversight structure or frameworks. And that's something that ourselves at BTC Markets, and also I'm a board member of Blockchain Australia, the local industry body, and we've been lobbying very hard over the last 18 months, 2 years for exactly that. So we wait to see the outcome of the election here locally to see where that progresses, but certainly it's on the cards here locally.
What else in the system might be on shaky grounds?
Well, it's very hard to tell. I mean, certainly we've just seen the detonation over the last 24 hours of that Terra project. We know that obviously Bitcoin took a battering, tied as well to what we've seen with the falls in the Nasdaq, and so that's kind of created waves of contagion across the rest of the market. But looking here now at the exchange board, I can see that a lot of green written across the board is not necessarily wild volatility coming back in again, but rather the buy signal is back, I think, for a large number of investors. Certainly early this morning when I was looking at Ethereum, for example, equal number of buy and sells ready to go. So people are taking this as a sign to come back in. However, as it is, as it would be with any other market in traditional finance, for example, that look for safety, looking for the large cap, looking for perhaps the equivalent of a US dollar or bond move, will probably be that move into Bitcoin and Ethereum as the two largest, most stable, most developed projects. And certainly looking at our exchange today, that's certainly what we're seeing.
Caroline, just one final question before you go. Bitcoin struggling to hang on to 27,000. I'm just wondering, what is the next support level?
Yeah, well, I think we're all kind of waiting to see where that goes to from here. As I say, we've seen that initial uptick again this morning come through during Australian trading. So we'll see how that plays off across global numbers. There's always a slight misstep due to the fact it's traded globally between the different prices that you may see. However, I think we can expect to see a return, a consolidation around these prices that we're seeing at the moment. Certainly that seems to be the trading expectation looking at the behaviors on the exchange. We're not seeing extended selling, rather we're seeing that base return on buying support. So we'll wait and see how it pans out across the weekend in particular.